right?
More juice for the gyro.
I like the juice. Juice is good.
Welcome back to another Decision Point live stream here on the Football Card Quest. I'm your host, Andy Cates, and of course with me is my co-host, the infamous eBay and fantasy football hitman, Steve Caladesi.
What is up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It just started raining here, which is this perfect time to dig in some football action, some football card activity.
You know, there's word on the street that you like the juice.
You liking the juice? I like some juice.
I like the juice.
You got your Bears hat on, man?
Yeah, I've been rocking it a lot more lately because I keep getting compliments on it. It is unique. You know, it's got the little landmark on it and some deep dish pizza on the back. So, you know, it's not your run-of-the-mill Bears hat. And we got the draft coming up. Everyone's excited about that, of course.
Yes, sir. Very excited about the draft. Just 4 weeks out, guys. So before we dig in, we have a very special hobby guest tonight. But before we do, I want to remind you guys that this show is sponsored by UnderdogFantasy.com. Guys, they are doing fantasy drafts right now. MLB, NHL, NBA, and NFL drafts that you can get into right now. And if you use promo code QUEST as a new sign-up, you get a 100% instant deposit bonus. They're doing fantasy drafts that no other site is doing. Big board, but super flex. We're talking drafts that have a potential $50,000 first place prize. So very excited there. Now, let's bring in our special guest, guys. This person is somebody very, very near and dear to me. This is a hobby and YouTube personality. This guy is rubbing elbows with some of the biggest guys in the industry now. Let's bring him in. Welcome to the stream, Brad, Jared,
No warm up whatsoever. I thought it started at 6, so I have like my dinner right here. I was going to eat as we just chat, and then start at 6, and all of a sudden I'm diving in the deep end. But good to be here.
So what's for dinner tonight, man?
I got salmon, white rice, and asparagus, and it looks horrible because I don't put on the plate really nice, but it's not bad. It's pretty healthy. But anyway, I'm good to go. What's up with y'all?
But that's how you stay in such good shape, right?
Well, there's a lot of pressure when you live here in West Hollywood, and there's just people with 8-packs and the top ass models in the world roaming around. So I mean, you want to at least keep up a bit.
And you live in Florida too. There's a little extra pressure living in Florida. You know, year round you got shorts and a t-shirt on. You know, so.
That's it. Yeah, no excuse.
Very true. Unless you're like me and you live in a football card cave and you have kids, and this is what you do all the time, all day, every day. We talk about football cards. So inherently, I just don't eat as much. So I stay in somewhat relatively shape. I've got a dad bod going.
I've seen Andy's body change so many times over the years since I've known him, and it's just ballooned, and then it's gotten really skinny, and then it's gotten buff, and then skinny, and then ballooned, and then it just I've seen it all. So it's good. You have a good thing going right now.
That's it, man. That's it. Sports cards brings us together. It also keeps us in shape.
Yeah, right.
So Brad, I appreciate you joining us tonight. We've got a loaded episode for you guys because we've got a mailbag that is spilling over from last week. Got a ton of questions here on the channel, Brad. And we're excited to have you with us to help us answer some of these questions for the folks in the chat. I want to shout out some of these guys and gals here in the chat. Raven 402, Steeler 96, Justin Can't Sleep, David Hunter is excited for this one. Steffi beat cards. Let's go. Mike Ham in the house. All right, guys. So, Brad, this first question is coming from us from the YouTube channel from Mark Speltz. And this is question, and I think this is a very good question, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this, and you as well, Steve. With so many players to choose from, what's the best way / some strategies to narrow your investment choices down? I know you don't want to, put all your eggs in one basket, but do you want to stick to 5 players, 10, maybe just based on personal preference and financial limitations? What's your thoughts on that, Brad?
I mean, for me, I'm always a reverse engineer type of guy. So I'm always thinking, what are all the filters I want to include? So it's just, all right, well, I'm lower risk. So if I'm lower risk, I want guys that are Hall of Fame bound, whether they're in the Hall of Fame now or they will be or they should be or something like that. Then it's position. All right, well, quarterbacks for football are that's the easy position. But maybe you want to say like, well, that's the easy position, but I really believe in this running back or wide receiver. To me, because there's so many players, but there's also so many cards, everything needs to be dwindled down filter after filter. So I'm always starting with, who do I know the best? What teams do I want to follow the best? Who would I want to check the score on and check the games on and watch the games of? Because I would rather, like when we started, it was great because the Bucks and the Tampa Bay Lightning were both doing well, and those were the teams I wanted to watch. And they both had players that turned out to be solid investments because the Bucks went on to win the Super Bowl after that year, and then the Lightning won the last 2. So I'm always starting, who do I want to follow, and then how risk averse am I, and then go from there. But yeah, to me, it's like 10 layers of filters just to get down to the players and then down to the cards.
That's a lot of filters, Brad. That's a lot of filters, but I dig it. I know, actually, the way I wanted to bring you in was the biggest Tom Brady PSA collector. That's non-rookie card, right? Like you're the biggest non-rookie Tom Brady PSA collector that I know.
I bought a lot of them, and I still have a lot of raw cards. And the irony is that I don't even care for these because none of them are in the Bucs uniform. To me, I only want to see Tom Brady in a Buccaneer uniform. It's almost like I want to forget that he played for the Patriots as a Bucs fan. So, I'm my eyes are still on those Tom Brady Buccaneer jersey cards. But now that he's out of retirement, I'm like, all right, well, prices are going to go back up. Let me wait until he retires again, or hopefully he doesn't get injured and his prices drop, or plays poorly and prices drop. But there might be another year or 2 until I could actually go in and feel good about the price I'm paying based on what he could be doing this upcoming season.
So I got to ask you, have you seen an actual 2020 Tom Brady in the Bucs uniform with a jersey patch in the card that's actually game worn?
No, I did see there was one card, and I don't know if it was flawless or what, but it was Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski dual auto, and I don't know. I think it was on card. I hope it's on card, but to me that was like, okay, that's the number 1 card I'd want to have, period. But no, I've not seen game worn. Then again, I don't know. Maybe Fanatics could make that happen in the future if they can get some of his game worn jerseys now, and then even if he retires, they're able to do that. But I have not. Have you? Have you guys?
I have not personally. I don't know. Steve is infamous for being an eBay hitman, so I'm gonna throw that over to you, Steve.
You know what they should do is they should, after they pay that guy for that ball that he won in the auction, they should cut it up, put it on a trading card, right? And then he should split some of the revenue, in my opinion, as a little get back for that happening.
There you go.
I haven't seen any on-card autos of Brady. Seeing any Brady autos in the Buck uniform period, I haven't seen very many at all.
Yeah.
Do they exist? They probably exist, but they're probably cards that are like maybe 6-figure cards realistically, because how many of them are there? You know what I mean? Like I'm on eBay pretty regularly, and I haven't seen any. So before we get too derailed, as far as the investment question, it is layers. It's for sure layers, but to simplify it as best as I could, if you're talking quarterbacks, if you're talking Brady, if you're talking Rodgers, you probably have to have a pretty sizable budget, right? You're talking about buying the QBs, you're going to be talking about spending money, right? If you have a smaller budget, prospecting may be a better thing for you. You can afford to buy more players, more cards, and you only need like one or two of them to hit, right? It's a little bit of a gamble, but it is part of investing is a gamble, right? For my personal, what you would call portfolio, it's a bit of both. I definitely buy some high risk investments, and I do buy QBs like Brady, Rodgers, and stuff as well. So I think having like a healthy mix is pretty important. Something, you got a side of your investment you can lean on, and a side that's like hey, this is a gamble, but those ones when they pay off, it's not a double or a triple up. It's 10, 20 or more, depending on how big they break out. So
yeah, I think that's
also
the
a fun factor too. I was going to say it's a lot more fun to prospect and actually get one that pans out.
Yeah, being able to be like, I was in on that guy 3 years ago and no one else was. Like that's fun. I think that's fun.
Yeah. You'd be like Justin Bieber's agent or the guy that discovered him, like Scooter Braun, who discovered Bieber at 12 years old and Ariana Grande at like 10 years old and then turned them into superstars. But it's a good feeling. It's just, maybe you prospect on 10 players and all you need is one. All you need is maybe one to be decent and one to take off, and that is well worth it.
And they don't have to be high-risk prospects. I'll give you an example. I bought a lot of Mike Williams optic prisms and a lot of Cooper Kupp optic prisms in the offseason last year, just because I thought those guys were better than their previous season's production. With the addition of Matt Stafford to that team, I thought good things could happen. I didn't expect what happened to happen, right? So I ended up selling them all of them at the beginning of the season. And thanks to ComC, I was able to buy them probably for like $2 or $3 a piece, right? And if you could see, the pink and blue or whatever they are ones from Optic are going for like $40 to $60 now. So, I got out around 20, but I was already like 7 times my money on them. So, that just goes to show you, like, it doesn't have to be like a no-name guy that just appears out of nowhere. It can be a good player that just has a better fantasy situation or even a better just NFL situation than he did the previous year.
And well, actually, I sold a couple Cooper Kupp optic hollows, and those were probably my best profits per dollar or like per cost that I had, because I think I got these optic hollows for $4, $6 and sold for like 20, 25 when Cooper Kupp looked like he was the number one receiver in the league. And then of course that just kept going and going. But I also did that with a handful of other players that did not pan out. And the other risk, or the other thing you got to think about too, is, okay, optic hollow is a pretty safe card in terms of if someone likes a player, optic hollow is pretty safe. It's not too crazy. I guess right now the way the market is, the rarer and the numbered cards are better. But before, it was just give me the basics, give me the prism silver, optic hollow. And now I'd be nervous just to have prism base. And so it really just be prism silver, optic hollow, and then some of the other parallels that are rarer, because it looks like no one's really touching the base cards, even though it's a rookie card of the right player. So yeah, it's an interesting world.
Well, that's a very good, important point you make, Brad, because from what I've seen, the further you go back in history, 2017, 16, 15, 2012, the base prism is very viable. It is very liquid, especially for quarterbacks. And you guys hit on two very important points there. One, quarterbacks do drive the market, but there is big potential in wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, defensive players. And we've seen it over the course of the past year and a half. But if you understand that there's a less demand for skill position players than there is quarterbacks, then that can kind of help you filter down the kind of cards you want to invest in for those players. Because look at Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow's base prism from 2020. That card's still selling for around $100, which is crazy. But even Jerry Jeudy, who's hyped up right now because they just got Russell Wilson to the Broncos, and he's getting a big projection boost in 2022. His base prism has still not gone over $10, and that's the position in the production disparity there in ultra modern. I'm talking like 2019, 2020, 2021. I think the further you go back, the more rare those base prisms get, and it also seems like they have a nicer quality. So I think it just makes them more viable.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I was surprised about is this NFL offseason has been amazing. It's been so much fun, especially as a Bucks fan, having Tom come back. But and I sold my Deshaun Watsons. I basically broke even on my Deshaun's when he signed with the Browns, even though I bought those cards, way below the peak, because the peak was like January of last year, when the trade rumors were really going and the whole market was super hot. And then I bought, I think in March, April, when the prices were cooling down after the allegations. And I thought that was the bottom. And then it kept going down. But fortunately with this news, I was able to get out. And I forgot where I was going with that point. But, crazy offseason. This was it. Yep. Russell Wilson. So I had Russell Wilson rookie cards that I bought at the same time. And when he signed with the Broncos or got traded, I was like, oh, yes, this is going to be the time I could liquidate, where I bought a player I believed in at a good price and all this. But that was a good price relative to 2021. That was a good price at that time. Then the pop counts increased. The flippers moved on, or a lot of them didn't stay in the hobby. They went to NFTs or whatever else. And so then the prices went down. And so it just kept going down and down. And now I needed something big to happen to sell at break even, just because the market wasn't where it was. And when Russell Wilson got traded, I thought his prices would move up, and they didn't. I wasn't really able to sell any of those cards, even though the Deshaun's sold easily. And some of them I sold at a profit.
Well, I will say that there is bigger hype for Deshaun Watson because he is a little bit of a younger player, but his cards are more iconic. I think Deshaun Watson's cards are more iconic because they come from 2017 set, the same set that Patrick Mahomes comes from. Same set Christian McCaffrey. The same set as their guy Cooper Kupp from last year comes from. And granted, Russell Wilson 2012 Prism, but if you look at like the big chart, Brad, the 2012 Prism, Russell Wilson, that class, that got so inflated by January, February of 2021 that if you look at the historical chart, like even Tom Brady, obviously he was in the Super Bowl, so that's a little bit different. But you look at Russell Wilson chart, that was the peak. That postseason reflection of guys like Russell Wilson, that was the peak for his card. And based on the scarcity, I could see that card having gone up really high, probably higher than still what it is at now. To your point, I think the market's more involved, right? I think sure. People aren't spending up as much just based on speculation. Like, we want to actually see production. We want to see performance, merit behind the investments that we make, because there's not as many speculative people in the hobby. I think of some of those guys that you talk about, whether they were sneakerheads or NFT techies or whatever, that got out, just like, really speculative people, or really, people that were looking to speculate, that are no longer in it because it's not as easy anymore. You actually have to find a player that is actually going to produce over and beyond what their current expectations are.
I mean, I'd say, yeah, but I don't know if you saw the chart of Mac Jones. Mac Jones had a Donruss paper rookie card that sold for $2,400, and then the next one was $2,200, and then now it's probably at like $120 or something, which is where it should be, if not lower. And then when Prism comes out,
he flamed out. I mean, he looked like the next coming of Tom Brady, and then he got his shorts cleaned by the Buffalo Bills the second time they played, and he flamed out. But I mean, he was the example of an ultra rookie with limited supply out, because there weren't many of his rookie cards printed by that point, and people were wanting that rated rookie logo. It was his most iconic card out at that time. And so we saw the massive explosion in his values. People were super expressing those to PSA, getting them back and flipping them for, thousands. I don't even know who was out there buying those, but they were out of their mind, man.
We talked about that on the channel a bit, and how ridiculous it was. I mean, it was obviously not sustainable. I mean, 0% chance sustainable. I think I have an interesting take on the Wilson thing, though, and I think that his cards will be more valuable during the year than they are now. And I think with the Watson comparison, I think a lot of that has to do with the last time Watson played, right, was at like a very high caliber level, Pro Bowl level. So that's the last thing collectors remember, right? The last thing collectors remember about Russ is he had a crap season last year, right? And it just goes to show you that any hype, even if it's like negative media, is enough to generate a buzz around a player. I mean, Watson's stuff with his court cases and stuff like that, like, yeah, it's negative, but people are talking about him. And then as soon as his name got cleared, you know he's in the good to come back now, even if he gets suspended. So, I mean, like, people are going to be talking about him because they're hearing his name, they're hearing his name, they're hearing his name. So I think that, I think it'll cool down on his cards a little bit. Where on the flip side, Russ cards, once they start winning games, we'll actually appreciate more.
Yeah, good point. I actually I pulled up that chart too of Mac Jones because it's one of the craziest charts I've ever seen. But people, he played well. It's just that, like, I mean, when you have very low supply of a card and you don't even have the other main cards out there, it's kind of like, I guess anyone could be emotional and just go overboard. But I don't understand how people still do that after there's so much content and education saying don't do that. Like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, $2,400 is absurd. Like, I don't know if his mom would pay that amount.
No, not unless it was autographed.
I mean, still, man, I have the chart here. I could always pull it up. It was just like, because now there's almost 1,300 of them at $190. I still think 190 is a bit much. And when PSA's grading opens up and it becomes way more affordable and quicker turnarounds, I bet that pop is going to grow a ton, and the card's going to go down to 150, 140 unless we're into next season and he's playing really well. But with the other product, with all the other stuff, I mean, even though it's flat now, I still don't think 190 for a Donruss paper PSA 10 is a great price.
I don't either, and I'll tell you why right now. Because if there is any hype left for Mac Jones around that card, because he is a good game manager, right? He's still got Bill Belichick. Patriots overall a solid team. They're never going to beat the Bills in the playoffs, and the AFC is absolutely stacked. The AFC is a gauntlet like you would not believe in terms of defense and offense. The Bills have one of the best rosters, both defensively and offensively, now in the league. They're definitely going to win that division. And you look at the AFC North, the Bengals are going back. They've improved their offensive line. They're incredible. Plus, you got Baltimore, now Cleveland with one of the best rosters, Deshaun Watson. And then you look at the AFC West with the Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers with all the improvements they've made. And now it's like the Chiefs as the low totem there in the AFC West. But that's like 9 different teams that the Patriots would have to get through that are like better than 85, 90% of NFC teams. There's literally like only 3 NFC teams: the Rams, the Bucks, and maybe the Cowboys.
Packers.
Maybe, and the Packers.
What about the Packers?
And the Packers, okay, the Packers, but they lost key components. Aaron Rodgers lost Devontae Adams, so they've lost key components, but they're gonna waltz in from the NFC North most likely. But you look at those 4 teams from the NFC are equivalent to about 9 teams in the AFC, and the Patriots just aren't going to be able to get it done. And so those cards are going to go down. You wait till October, November would probably be the time to buy, because then you're going to have the Prism for Mac Jones out. You're going to have the Select. You're going to, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about Optic, Brad. Maybe you know something behind the scenes. We can talk about that in a few.
Yeah, I'd have to check the release dates.
Oh, no release dates, no artist proofs. We check the release dates of new products here every week on the Quest, and no release dates, no artist proofs yet for Optic. And so Steve and I actually have a little bit of a theory behind that, and maybe there's a little bit of fanatics, getting their fingers in the inner workings of Panini behind the scenes, and maybe there's a deal going. I don't know. Total conspiracy, total speculation. The chat is running wild here, guys. The chat is running wild. I'm seeing some great questions here in the chat from you guys. Now, if we do miss your question, you can always super chat. The super chat is open. That will put your question up at the top, and we'll make sure to answer that. Also, if you're new here, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up if we're having a good live stream here. I've got a really fun question up next for you. I want to hear your opinion on this, because this is something else that I think is very important. Brad, you do a good job of this. Steve, you do a good job of this. I do not. And that is why rookie cards. I'm totally sold on the rookie card. Like, that is where my focus is. And this question is from 449 Todd from our Discord server over at patreon.com/footballcards. He says, why rookie cards? Is it still because they were inherently older and fewer existed in good condition before the hobby became an actual hobby?
Okay, real quick. I did hear all of that. I pulled up a calendar. And I think I have the Optic release date for May 11th or so. I don't know if you saw this on Cardboard Connection, but we can pull that up aside.
2022 Optic.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. This is 2021.
I mean, 2021 Optic.
Yeah, May 11th.
Professional team uniforms.
I mean, here, hold on. Let me just share the screen, and then let's get to that rookie card question, because at first I was like, rookie cards, what if that's not their best year? What does it matter? But this is from Cardboard Connection, their 2022 calendar right here. And so we'll see if that date sticks. Let's see, where am I at? 5/11 right here. Donruss Optic Football. Just make you guys can see this okay, right?
Yeah. It's tiny, but I can see it. 5/11s. Oh,
Yeah, May 11th. So Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers.
Ooh,
so
that looks nice.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool looking card of Aaron Rodgers with like.
There we go. You see it here first, guys.
And I don't know if there's Prism on here as well, but yeah, shout out to Cardboard Connection for doing this. This is a very extensive list. So cardboardconnection.com/new release calendar. In terms of rookie cards, though, I mean, it's like a baby picture. It's the newborn picture. You know, you come out of your mom's womb, and that very first picture being coddled by your mom should be the most special one, because that is your first moment in life, right? The rookie card is the first series of moments in a player's career, and the better they are, the longer their career is. But why a rookie card? Well, why a second year card? Why a third year? Why a fourth year? Why a 10th year? I mean, I could understand first year in a new uniform. That makes sense. I could understand first year they win a Super Bowl. It's just, I don't even think that really matters. If a player wins the Super Bowl for the first time in the 8th year, and you look at a card, I don't, unless they're holding up the trophy, I don't think it really matters. But a rookie card is always the equivalent of that newborn picture to me.
I like that take. For me, it's kind of along the same lines, and along with what you said, like, your mom never throws away your favorite blanket from when you were a year old. You know what I mean? Like, there's something unique about not just old stuff, but the beginning, right? The beginning of a long journey. And let's be honest, there's only one rookie year. Okay, if you have a 10-year career, there's 9 years that aren't your rookie year, right? So the rookie year is pretty unique in that sense. And if you look at, I mean, you have the shirt, the Tom Brady shirt. I mean, look at how much a guy can change skill-wise or physically from the rookie year, from the combine even, to current time. So I think it just shows like a starting point for a career. And for a guy like Brady, for example, I mean, that's historic, right? Look how much he's accomplished.
Yeah,
I think the other thing too, just to add to that, is this is a card from when they weren't who they've become, right? In the year 8, they may have won 2 Super Bowls or whatever, and they become someone pretty legendary. But the rookie card, it's all unproven. So I think there's something kind of special, because it's like all potential. No, you look at a picture of them and you have no idea what to expect from their career. And that's what you're reminded of when you look at that rookie card, is like, we have no idea who you're going to be, but you look at that card and you're like, wow, you turned out to be incredible. And then there you are, kind of humbly standing there with a football on the sideline, or in a college jersey, or like throwing a ball, but it's probably in preseason or in a meaningless game. And then 20 years later, it's kind of like an easy reference of, look how far you've come.
Yeah, look how far you come. And if Panini does it right, these card manufacturers do it right, they've either got some kind of rated rookie logo or the little rookie card shield. There is those like the Prism autographs, the Prism short print cards from 2018. For whatever reason, Panini did like a bunch of sets and inserts from 2018, didn't have rookie card logos. It's absolutely just retarded. But anyways, I digress. But I think those things, those types of assets about the player and the card are really important. What I get really interested about, and what I think you've done a good job about, Brad, in investing in like Tom Brady, for example, elite player, and investing in his veteran cards, and there's a ton of demand there, especially cards like when he changed uniform. Steve, you're good about this too. I think even though we've got a weaker draft class going into the NFL in 2022 in terms of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, I think that with all these historic team changes, right, of all these franchise and Hall of Fame players changing teams, that the 2022 product for football is still going to be extremely popular. It's still going to be very demanded because people are going to want Russell Wilson in the Broncos uniform. They're going to want Deshaun Watson, the Browns, Devontae Adams, the Raiders, Tyreek Hill, the Miami uniform, Matt Ryan, the Colts, all that kind of stuff. They're going to want all those guys in their new uniforms, which I think is very interesting. And ultimately, from what I've seen, if you're targeting scarcity in the card market, then it's at a low price point, comparably speaking. Like if you're comparing the sold cards of that player, a veteran card, to other veteran players of same scarcity, and it's low, like it's at a good price, then I think that's a good investment.
Yeah. The other question too is, what about the last year in the uniform? What's your take on that? As in, when I got back in, I was wondering, what is Tom Brady's last year in a Patriots uniform card worth? Is that worth any more, or it makes no difference? Have you guys noticed any change, especially with a guy as iconic as Tom Brady, who spent his entire career in New England? Are you seeing any extra demand or talk about, oh, but this is the last year he was with New England? Or is it kind of like, throw it in a pile with the rest? If it's not a rookie card or maybe second year, it doesn't really matter.
I haven't seen any difference. The one thing that I will note, though, is, as you guys probably know, like the older sets tend to be more scarce. Now when you open a box of Prism or Mosaic or even Optic, you have tons of Prism Hollows and other variations and whatnot. But back in the day, early in Tom's career, you would have had, like, to get a refractor, for example, would be very uncommon, especially of a good player. So to have one in halfway decent condition now, however many years later, those cards are worth significantly more. So I think it just happens to be that he's in a Patriots uniform in some of his older cards. But those cards still fetch, a lot of money. You could look at a 2015, 2014 refractor, and it's going to run $80 to $100 versus like his silver Prism card, which might go for like what, 40 to 50 maybe. So even though he's in the Bucs uniform, they still go for quite a bit more just because there's not as many of them, I think.
Yeah, and that's the other filters too. We're talking about what filters to invest in. It's like you need 10 filters just to narrow down the right players, and then you need another 10 filters to narrow down which cards, and then you need a couple more based on grading companies and all of that. Because, I've said this numerous times, the nuances in sports cards are so crazy and so unheard of in other industries that this gives me a lot of confidence investing in anything else, because you probably don't have to go through 20 filters to get to the one card in the one grade from the right grading company to actually go up in value during that small window of time when that player does something big or is traded or the other player gets injured and they step in or whatever. But it's like you could have the right player, but if it's the wrong card, the wrong grading company, the wrong grade, or you paid too much, then all of a sudden you have a lousy investment. So it's just kind of interesting. One thing I did want to get your take on real quick, both of you guys, is Deshaun Watson's contract. Like that was like setting records based on how much he got paid after not playing an entire year. Is that something that you saw coming?
Hats off to Deshaun Watson's agent. It goes back to, sometimes it's better to be free, as in a free agent, than it is to be on a team. Whenever you're basically like constricted to a team exercising their fifth year option, franchise tagging you, that kind of thing. When Deshaun Watson basically had a no trade clause in his contract with Houston, and they were done with him because of his allegations off the field, like that was kind of worked out in his favor because he was a top 5 quarterback the year that after that happened. When that happened the year before, he was a top 5 quarterback. Arguably had the best deep ball in the league the last time we saw him play. So his agent really, and I think his agent did a great job because it was narrowed down to the NFC South, really, right? They had it narrowed down to the Saints, to the Falcons, and the Panthers. And he said, no, I don't want to go to the Panthers. And there was a lot of talk about him going to the Falcons or the Saints. The Falcons, he grew up in Atlanta. He was also a ball boy for Atlanta, but the Falcons arguably didn't have the money. They also had to get rid of Matt Ryan, and the Saints freed up a ton of cap space to bring him in. And what his agent did was said, he made an announcement and said the Browns are out of consideration. I don't think the Browns were ever in consideration before that. What he did was he planted the seeds for the Browns to think, wait a minute, were we ever in? Were we ever in consideration? And so what happened next? They met with the Browns in 48 hours. The Browns sent them their best offer. It's almost fully guaranteed. And yeah, it's a great contract because it's spread out over all these years. So yeah, hats off to Deshaun Watson's agent, the way they pulled that off.
I started following Deshaun Watson's agents on Instagram after I saw that. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but this player has not played in a year. He actually benefited from not playing because if he did play and had a mediocre season, there's no way or anything less than a stellar season. Right? Anything less than a stellar season, he would not have gotten $250 million over 5 years guaranteed, something like that. Like incredible. So I'm thinking, how in the world do you give a player that has not played in a year that you don't know if he would have played well or not? Maybe he tears his ACL game 3. Who knows? You give him all that money guaranteed, and your team might actually look bad for signing a player with so many allegations. I'm like, whoever that agent is, you just crushed it.
Absolutely crushed it. So
I mean, good for him. I'm not taking anything away from Watson, but what's sad about the other end of the spectrum? Let's talk about the other end of the spectrum real quick. You have Baker Mayfield. Okay. I don't know if you guys played sports growing up. I played in grade school, junior high, high school, college. Injuries happen, right? And you sometimes play through injuries, right? I've done it. I know tons of people who have done it. And that's typically part of the game, right? But I saw a lot of teammates talking about Mayfield, and they're like, yo, you should have just said, screw it. I'm sitting the season out. And it's sad because he did what he thought was the noble, heroic thing to try to be out there for his team. And now look what's happening to him. He's either going to be holding a clipboard or maybe just have to sit the season out next year.
I think he's going to end up as a backup. I think he's going to end up as a backup somewhere.
Every time I hear his name, I just think early American settler. I mean, the name Baker Mayfield, I'm just like, I'm thinking of the Mayflower, Christopher Columbus coming over. Early American settlers are named Baker Mayfield. I'm just always distracted by his name.
Yeah, his ancestors are definitely on the Oregon Trail. I mean, you could definitely put him there.
Well, who else needs a quarterback? Who's interested in him?
Well, I mean, obviously the Panthers need a quarterback, right? The Panthers are desperate for a quarterback. Sam Darnold's definitely not the answer there. But I think he gets another starting opportunity eventually. I just don't know if it's going to be in 2022.
Yeah. Good thing that the NFC is wide open and so easy compared to the AFC. Even if Baker comes to the NFC, it's not like a threat,
You know what's sad is it might, in a weird sense of irony, it might actually take, a starting QB to get injured somewhere for him to get moved to another team where they need a starting quarterback.
Or like what we see. It's always interesting is late in the season when a contender has an injury, and it's usually not a quarterback because that's too major, but when they lose a wide receiver, and that's when you start to see those trades or those pickups where it's like, like even AB the season before or something like that. I mean, the Bucs really needed a wide receiver to get late in the year after Chris Godwin goes down and AB dances off the field. But it's always like, who is desperate and is a contender and just needs someone to manage the game, win a couple games until the starter's back. But We'll see.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's an absolutely good point. We could see that happen. I find it really fascinating. You know, Baker he's very charismatic. You know, he's very charismatic. He can be very charming. He's really good in those commercials that he does. And the guy was really good in college. However,
They're
never
all
played.
really good in college.
but see, the thing is, this is the corollary because he never played an SEC caliber defense. Like he never played an NFL caliber defense in college. Like one of the really big SEC caliber defenses in college. And so he basically talked him way into being the number one overall draft pick in 2018. And so it's, you know, now he's at that critical point, and you could blame it on injuries. You could point to a variety of things, and not building chemistry with the teammates. You know, you had coaching issues before Kevin Stefanski came in, so it's a variety of factors. But I think it's ultimately people like with all the drama that he's built up this past year with Odell Beckham and the rest of the coaching staff, the front office. I don't know if that's also affecting teams, you know, decision to want to pursue him as well. You know.
Hey, if people are going to pursue Deshaun Watson with what happened off the field, they would pursue Baker. It's just a matter of, is he talented enough? Because any player
Deshaun Watson is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, though.
I know, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, you can get away with pretty much murder if you have that talent, and if you're a quarterback. Baker, it's like,
or if you're Ray Lewis, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're that talented or that much of a leader, I mean. Ben Roethlisberger, didn't he have issues or like accusations?
Yeah, his second year he did.
Yeah, so again, quarterbacks are treated differently. Top quarterbacks are treated differently. Is Baker in that category? No.
Yeah, and that's where we get the number of 8-game suspension. I believe that Ben Roethlisberger was suspended for 8 games back in 2010, even though he was dropped of criminal charges. So, you know, that's kind of where we get that 8-game number. However, social media is much bigger today than it was in 2010, and there's a far bigger outcry, you know, today about social justice and everything else. So it's, I don't know, the league, the front office of the NFL may take it more seriously. It may start out as a year suspension. It will appeal it if it's that long, and maybe they get it shortened. All right, Brad, Steve. Are you ready for this? Because I've got some special questions for you, Brad, some specific questions that, you know, I want to ask you. But I have a question here from one of our favorite guys in the community, David Hunter. And he wants to know, is there a QB that you think will see his cards go down in season? So we're talking about by the mid-season lull, guys that don't come out of the gates playing like MVP caliber. Maybe their team is not winning coming out of the gates. There in October, November, beginning of December, is there a quarterback that you think will have his cards go down, kind of like Russell Wilson did in 2020 and Lamar Jackson in 2020 and 2021 as well?
Well, I would say probably that Mac Jones Donruss paper card's going to keep going down no matter what, because Prism's going to be out. But honestly, here's the thing. I watch the Bucks. I love the Bucks. I don't care about the other teams. I don't even know if there's 30 or 31 other teams. How many teams are there?
Stop it.
31 or 32? 32, right? The Bucks are all that matters. I don't care. So I'm thinking Tom Brady, Kyle Trask, Ryan Griffin, like those are the only players. I'm trying to think. Justin Herbert's super. Oh, I mean, like, here's the thing. Joe Burrow is the first player I think of is his card prices should be pretty high. It should be pretty damn high. And he has the offensive lineman. He got the guy from Tampa, Alex Kappa. He got another one. So I would imagine Joe Burrow's cards entering the season will be pretty damn high. So then I would be thinking, all right, let's look at the schedule for the first 8 weeks and see realistically what that could be. Obviously, we can't predict injuries or anything like that, but he's one player that I would say could go down, not because him and the Bengals won't play well, but because his cards might be through the roof, and it would take going 8-0 or 7-1, 6-2 for them to maintain that. But if they're 4-4 after 8 games, all of a sudden it's disappointing, even though they have another 9 games to go where they could go on a run. Maybe they'll have like an easy month of games. And then, you know, we saw that a couple times where teams like Kansas City looked horrible. Remember, KC looked horrible, and the Mahomes prices were so low. And then the second half of the year, KC turned it on, especially last third of the year, it was like, okay, it's go time. So I would imagine Burrow's going to start off really hot in prices, and we'll see what the record is halfway through.
I know that I'm going to get some blowback on a couple of these, but I got a couple names for you guys, right? First one on the list, we both agree, Mac Jones, 100%. Let's be honest, that team did not improve. So many teams in the AFC improved, and they actually got worse, right? Even if Mac Jones improves his game, they don't really have a lot going on. They have an okay defense and a run game. That's pretty much it. They could have gotten, unless they get a really stellar wideout in the draft or they make some kind of trade, they're not really going to improve much. So I think the Mac Jones will continue to go down. Not that necessarily he doesn't have some career path, but as far as next season goes, I think that his cards will go down. And then here's a couple more. I'll just fire a couple off for you. Trey Lance. They don't even know if he's going to start or not yet. You were talking about guys that have high prices like Burrow going into the year. Trey Lance cards right now are obscenely priced for a guy who's not even guaranteed to start next year, right? So that's one. Trevor Lawrence, right? The expectations are very high for him, and especially with all the additions they put in around him. If they don't come out of the gates winning, his cards are tanking. They just are. An 0-2 start, an 0-3 start. And here's the one. Here's the blowback. You ready for this one? Pat Mahomes. I think that KC is going to underwhelm. They've lost their best receiver. Not to say that they won't have a lightning offense, but they're not as good as they were last year. And if Honey Badger doesn't sign back, their defense is even weaker. How many points a week are you going to have to score just to stay in the game? 35, 38? What's the number, right? So I honestly think that that's my list, and I'm pretty confident in it.
I like that list, man. I like that list because I can definitely see all three of those 2021 guys going down in value, especially the cards that are out now because of other factors we talked about with those other major products, Optics, Select, and Prism coming out, and so the values of like, especially that base paper, Donruss rated rookie, you talk about PSA 10, Brad. And then on top of that, you add in the production not living up to the expectation that's baked into their card value coming into the season, and those drop by October, November. I absolutely agree with you about Patrick Mahomes as well, just because his card prices are so high. They're so inflated from the initial sports card boom. And yes, he does have one Super Bowl ring, but we've seen how hard it is to get back, and they have lost key components, and Tyreek Hill is not replaceable in my opinion. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is not Tyreek Hill. It's not even in the same stratosphere, right? And the defense is not going to be as good. So I'm with you, man. I think that he may be a buy come October, November.
So the question I have, the name that you mentioned that stuck out to me that's interesting is Trevor Lawrence. And the reason why is because this time last year, especially in a couple of weeks after the draft, and actually right now, no, it was like this time last year before the draft, Trevor Lawrence, like that was it. And it's so funny how the Jags had a miserable season. Their coach got in trouble like for dancing with a stripper or something. Didn't he get caught doing that? And then he resigned and all this drama around Urban Meyer, like horrible season overall for Jacksonville. And I think to myself, well, wouldn't that make Trevor Lawrence an interesting pickup? Because the talent was super high, he was on top of everything, and had such a bad year in an organization that is known for having issues and underperforming. And maybe it's, he doesn't have the pressure as he did last year. He can say like, look, all eyes aren't on me. There's going to be a new class. We have these other quarterbacks that are getting the attention. The expectations are much lower since, you can't have the same level of expectations this year as you did last year for him. And I'm looking up his cards right now, and I was going to pull this up. This is comparing.
But we do, Brad.
Huh?
You go ahead and pull that up. I'm just going to say we do have higher expectations for Trevor this year because a lot of people compared his rookie season to that of Peyton Manning because of the amount of interceptions he threw and how poor performance he had in his first season. And now you bring in a former quarterback, a Super Bowl winning coach from the Philadelphia Eagles and Doug Peterson, a quarterback-friendly coach who should transform Trevor Lawrence, right? You bring in some of the best skill position players in the league, like a Christian Kirk, and so you have the Travis Etienne comes back. Trevor Lawrence, a star running back from college who had an incredible target share, incredibly explosive athlete, had a Liz Frank foot fracture in the preseason of last season. He's now coming back. So you have all these pieces coming together. They've spent a ton of money. Now, it hasn't been like any superstar type players, but there's been a lot of just solid pieces that they're put. So the expectation for Trevor Lawrence is through the roof because we don't have a college prospect like Trevor Lawrence in this 2022 draft class. So we're still looking to last year's draft class for these sophomores to now break out. And Trevor Lawrence is leading the pack because of all the improvements that they've made around him. And his college resume is still so incredible. One of the best college prospects of all time. Clemson, blah, blah, blah.
Do you think the average collector, though, that's not super deep into football, but just watches football casually, is as excited about Trevor Lawrence as someone that's deep into it? Because
I think they do. Because Trevor is not just a 1.1 pick from last year and had this, crazy college story in his college resume, so impressive, right? But he's also big in the hobby. Trevor Lawrence has the Top Projects X. He's got his own set that was developed, with his sister as the artist. He was with Card Collector 2 at the Super Bowl on
because
Radio
he had time
Row.
to go there because he wasn't in the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah.
And probably not invited to the cool parties.
To go along with what we already said and also another take on it, that's not to say if you find a good deal on Trevor Lawrence on a good Trevor Lawrence card, to not buy it. That's definitely not what I'm saying, right? But I'm saying as a whole, his cards will probably go down, right? And that's one of the things with prospecting, and it's even worse in other sports than it is in football. And specifically at the quarterback position, his prices are still so inflated that what would it take for him to go up in value, right? A lot. And the expectations are just too high. So even if he performs above average, his card prices will probably still go down.
Yeah, and they're still in the AFC. They're not getting past the Titans, who still have an incredible roster. They're not getting past the Colts, who now upgraded their roster with Matt Ryan. They're not getting past either one. They're not even getting out of their own division, much less the AFC West, the AFC East. I mean, the AFC North. I mean, just talk the AFC. They're not getting anywhere. They're not going anywhere next year. So maybe Trevor Lawrence in 3-4 years down the road, but this in 2022, I don't see it happening. I mean, it's only going to go down. I think his values are only going to go down.
So that's a good point, because maybe Trevor Lawrence has a good year and it's okay, Jags are just in a horrible position. They need to be better. These other teams need to lose a couple of players because they're all stacked right now. So maybe he is the 2023, 2024 guy if he has a great 2022 run. But I want to ask you guys this. Mac Jones's last PSA 10 in Donruss paper, just Donruss paper base, went for about $200. Okay, $200 for Mac Jones PSA 10 base Donruss. There are 1,271 of them. Okay, 1,271. There are 84 Trevor Lawrence Donruss paper PSA 10s. So there's literally about 13 times more Mac Jones PSA 10s than Trevor Lawrence. 13x right now, because people were rushing to get those graded because Mac Jones was having a great year. That makes sense. What do you think the price is of the 84 pop count Trevor Lawrence PSA 10? About $200 for Mac Jones. There's 1,271, and there's 84 Trevor Lawrence. What do you think the price is? Same exact card, same grade.
I think it's probably somewhere between 150 and 175.
What about you, Steve?
Is this for the Donruss rated rookie?
Yeah, you just don't be looking at it. Don't be cheating.
No. I'm doing auctions. I'm not gonna lie. I would say, I'll say 175, close to what Andy said.
Okay. Yeah. Good guess. So I'm going to share the screen now. It is about the same price. So we have 200 for the 220 for the last sale on March 27th. Mac Jones was 200 that day, and that was the last. Actually, no. Here's the last sale. Okay, just the 30th yesterday. 190 25 cents, 190 for Mac Jones. So same exact price. The difference down here, if you could see, 84, I'll put it there, 84 pop counts of Trevor Lawrence, 1,271 of Mac Jones. And you see that crazy spike that actually went up to $3,000 if it was legit. But even if it wasn't, you have 2,250, 2,000, and several other crazy prices. But, you know, people aren't getting them graded. But in terms of the prices going down, if Trevor Lawrence starts playing well, you have at least 1,200 cards there that are probably waiting to be sent to PSA service and get in and out real quick. So, you know, it's just interesting to see that disparity for the same rookie class.
That's true, but I would argue that Jacksonville's fan base is much smaller, right? Jacksonville's fan base is much smaller. New England's is one of the biggest, right? New England's is one of the biggest, and they have one of the longest standing, like, you know, coaching staff and just like pedigree of being a good team, right? And there's a ton of people in New England that are convinced Mac Jones is the second coming of Tom Brady. So I would argue that even though there's 1,300 Mac Jones PSA 10 base donors out there, that a lot of those are staying in people's collections and not actually being listed. So I'd be interested to see how many are available for sale on eBay compared to the Trevor Lawrence.
Hey, someone could pull that up right now. I mean, if I'm looking at the sales, I mean, there's a sale of like one per day of the Mac Jones. Even up until now, looks like 27th, 28th, there's like one per day. And the Trevor Lawrence, it's one every 4 days, 5 days. I think there was a gap of like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I could be a fan, but I'm a fan of like 5xing my money and then buying in the off season as well.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence has like a couple things going against him outside of the fact that that organization really let him down last year. That I would say that's the biggest one, right? But not being in a major market is a big one, right? As far as if you're looking to invest in a quarterback, obviously that's a big one. I mean, look at the Mac Jones thing. You could say the same thing about Justin Fields, right? Justin Fields is like trapped between Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence because he's got a team that's not building around him. He is in a major market, however, but he's in the same situation where his values could go down next year too. They're not doing anything to bolster that team. They're in a rebuild. So, I mean, how many hits can this young guy take? You saw how many he took last year and was slow to get up for a tough guy like that. Like, you know, if you're not protecting these young guys and investing in a line around them, what are you even doing?
And I think if you want to try and project what like Trevor Lawrence's based on his paper PSA 10 is going to be in the upcoming season, like what it could potentially go down to, you got to go look at guys from 2020. Maybe go look at Tua. You know, go look at Tua Tagovailoa's 2020 base paper donruss PSA 10 from 2020 and see what that went down to this past season in October, November, to give yourself an idea of what that could potentially do, because new products are coming out, Brad. So not just like those cards coming back from PSA, but just actually like better products, right? Prism, Optics, Select.
We got Prism on here. It says Prism April 27th. So that's before Optic. So
yes.
That's 3 weeks, 4 weeks away, just under 4 weeks away. And who is going to care about Donruss paper when Prism is out? And then Select and Optic and everything else. Like Donruss paper is basically the bread that a restaurant serves before the appetizers arrive. You know, it's right. Like the free bread plate. And the only exception is that me and Andy used to go to this really hole-in-the-wall Italian place that had the best bread in the world. That would be the exception because we used to go there just for the garlic bread.
That's the clearly Donruss.
Yeah. Well, that's the rated rookie logo. Like that's the rated rookie logo. Like that's what people are buying the paper Donruss for. It's that garlic butter that they put on it. You know, that's the rated rookie
honestly,
logo.
Would people buy Donruss paper if it was out after or during all the others? Because
I think they would.
It's the best that's available, and what's available is nothing.
Yeah, so that does do a lot for the product because it's the first that comes out. Pro Uniforms rated rookie logo. I think if it came out afterwards, it wouldn't get nearly to the prices that we saw it get to for certain guys that broke out in the rookie season, like Mac Jones. But I think it still would be viable. I think people would still buy it. It would just be like, you'd buy it for $1 or $2 and maybe flip it for $4 or $5. Like, you're playing in that kind of very, entry level range. I think it's still viable though because of the rated rookie logo.
Well, I mean, maybe that's why I don't know if this is part of Panini's strategy, but it's like, look, this product's going to get buried if we release it later. So let's release it first, give them something to rip and be excited about. So at least this does well. And then they'll have to buy the good stuff, right? We just want to give them a little plate of bread right now because they'll gobble up the bread. But when they see the steak, they're not going to not eat the steak. But if we give them the steak first, they're not going to eat the bread.
Think about how much extra mosaic they probably sold this year by having these other sets delayed. And I don't think it even matters that Optic and Prism are only 3 weeks apart from each other. Them being like hypothetically the most desired sets coming out, it doesn't matter. People are going to buy them both anyway, right? It's not like you said Donruss Paper's coming out and then Optic's coming out 3 weeks later. It's Prism and Optic. They're going to sell out. People are still going to be hungry for both of them. It's not the appetizer, it's the entree.
That's it.
Very true.
I want to ask you guys real quick before Andy claps his hands and goes to something else because it looks like a solid transition. Well, I was just going to ask real quick because I've talked about Fanatics a lot, but I haven't gotten your take as football fans. If you have any unique stance on specifically football and what Fanatics is doing, if you're excited, if you're nervous, if there's just a take based on the football side of it versus the take as a hobby as a whole.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would like to see Topps back in the game, but I do not like the concept or the theory or the possibility of print on demand. I do not like the thought of them literally printing for the size of the demand that they have. I think I would love to see them actually scale back, right? 53 different sets, 4,300 different rook cards, and an average of 65 parallels per set, major set. I would like to see them actually scale back, make things a little bit more scarce, maybe bring Topps into the football fold, 2025, 26, a little friendly competition, to kind of bring that back. So that's what I'd like to see, and that's a little bit what I'm concerned about is them printing on demand, like actually increasing print runs.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite time in collecting was when I could go buy a Topps Chrome or a Topps Finest football card, right? That was like the pinnacle of my collecting growing up. And to me, that's going to be so exciting when they bring those back, and I think that they will. And I would like to see, even if they took away like 7 of the current sets that are just not that desirable. I mean, a lot of people in the hobby are about our age range, and they're going to want Bowman Chrome, Topps Finest, right? Mm-hmm. Those are just better sets, and they don't necessarily have a rated rookie logo, but they have something else, and they have the nostalgia factor that a lot of people are going to want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I came from Mint Collective in Vegas, and I just see the future right here. I mean, I feel like I saw the next 6 months to year to 2 years in the hobby in one room in terms of what's in the works. But Topps Chrome, Topps Finest, it's like if you can grab the person that collected that as a kid and the person that's getting in today that has no idea but just likes the look of the card, you're going to win. When you're a big company saying now this is going to be called the Fanatics, you're having to convince people of a new set that they're not familiar with. It might rub people the wrong way just because it's like, well, you're the monopoly that's taken over, and now you're pumping out this stuff that goes against what we grew up with, goes against what we've been collecting and buying and ripping whatever for the last few years. Them acquiring Topps, I think was like the smartest move ever. So I would love to see Topps Finest Tom Brady, Topps Finest Refractor. Do you peel it off or do you keep it on? That kind of stuff. I love that peel. I love that kind of way to alter the card in a good way. So just want to get your take there. And Andy, what were you going to say before I interrupted you at the perfect time?
Yeah, you have a knack for doing that, right?
Yeah.
So do you peel it off or do you leave it on?
That's a highly debated subject, actually. There's a segment of the hobby that believes that they're worth more with the protective peel on, but there's another segment that believes that it's not as desirable because it takes away from the natural look of the card. Yeah.
Here's my thing. A PSA 10 of it with it removed, I think is more valuable to me because someone had to actually remove it and not ruin the card. The other thing is that if where it says, what does it say? Does it say remove or peel here or something on it? If that is covering the face of the player or like a key component of the card, like the player's name, and it doesn't look right, I think that's when you take it off. But if it's somehow finagled around the player and the player looks fine, it's not worth the risk unless you love it with the peel off. But the cool thing with the peel is that you could always remove it whenever you choose. Once you remove it, you're not going to put the peel back on.
You can't go back then, no.
Yeah.
So once you go no peel, no going back to peel. That's the moral of that story there.
Brad, you might remember this. They did a basketball set called Mystery Finest, if you remember that.
Yeah.
The peel was actually all black. So to actually see the card, you had to remove the peel. That was pretty cool.
I did not remember that. I did open an old box of 95, 96 Finest basketball, and most of the cards were green, and some of them had an entire black peel on it. But when I peeled it off, it was just a normal card. It wasn't an insert. It wasn't anything. But I think that was just like a really old, funky set that was horrible. But see, that kind of stuff is great. I think, you have these mystery cards where all of a sudden it's not just opening a pack. Now there's a mystery to the card itself. Like, to me, that's like you're playing with a pack within a pack.
That peel comes off. Is it a refractor? Is it not? Right? I mean, that's like exactly. There's a mystery within the mystery.
So it's like Yeah, I mean, to me that'd be amazing if the back of the card you can't tell, but the front of it could be numbered to 99 or 59, and it could be a refractor. All you can see on the back is the player. Maybe it's an auto, maybe it's not. That kind of stuff would be incredible because now you could sell it, or you could even grade it perhaps, and people won't know what's actually there unless all 98 of the 99 are found, and then people are like, yeah, that's got to be the missing one. But anyway, we're going down a tangent that Andy's facial expression doesn't really approve of.
No, man, you guys are open Pandora's box. I'd love to see somebody out there take this idea and run with it. It sounds fun, man. It sounds fun. But Brad, now we do have some very specific questions that we want to ask you about your experience in the hobby, because you have rubbed elbows with some of the, I would say, some of the A-list hobby celebrities. Man, you're practically an A-list hobby celebrity at this point.
I mean, I'm riding coattails, man. I'm like that squirrel that's on skis, but he holding on to a coattail.
Yes.
Okay, what's up?
Yes,
What's the questions?
Okay, so I want to ask you about that. But first, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, of course, give us a thumbs up on the video. And if you want to help support the channel, get even more content, bonus content, articles, monthly giveaway, Discord server access, head over to patreon.com/footballcards. It is only $6 a month, and you will earn a special place in my heart. And Brad, our first question is actually a football question. I got to talk to my content director. I don't think he realized that you didn't have a whole lot of football knowledge outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it's okay. I think you can handle it.
Are there other teams that matter, really?
I think there might be a player on the Buccaneers that fits this question. Okay. And that is, what is the most underrated skill position player in the NFL today?
The position, okay. So
no, not position. Like skill position player. Like you know what a skill position player is, right?
I mean, okay. Oh man. Well, I mean, yeah. Now I'm going back to my Bucks because I'm like, who's on the Bucks? I mean, this was the answer a couple of years ago. Well, when the Tom Brady first went to Tampa, it was Chris Godwin. And now I'm thinking after that injury, I mean, I feel like the market softened, but also that injury and then Antonio Brown and other receivers. I mean, I hope Chris Godwin has a great year and turns out to be like another big Pro Bowl season for him. I thought the question was what position, and I was actually pondering that one, like what position as a whole is underrated, and I think it has to be tight end on the offense, or if you include kickers would be underrated. I would never want a card of one.
You don't want a card of Evan McPherson?
I don't even know who that is.
I just won one yesterday, Andy, for $2.
When you get free time next time, Brad, go look up the chart for Evan McPherson in your data market tool and look at that chart for Evan McPherson.
You'll be pretty surprised.
You'll be pretty surprised.
Yeah. What team? What team is he on?
Bengals.
A kicker?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't even know. Awesome.
Really starting to concern me, Brad.
Hey man, I watch the Bucks. I'm a Bucks fan. True.
So I would say that Chris Godwin, if you watch the Bucks, then you saw Chris Godwin in Week 15 whenever he did tear his ACL. He was actually running around on the sideline trying to see if he could come back in, and only later to find out that he had actually torn his ACL. Incredible. So I don't think it's that bad of one. Plus, with modern sports medicine, he may miss a few games at the beginning of the season, but yeah, he's going to be right back to form. I mean, there's no secret that we signed him to a 3-year extension after Tom Brady, agreed to come back like that. That kind of went together for that reason, because he probably could have gotten a bigger deal on a free market as a free agent. But it was that Tom Brady effect.
The other thing too, Tom Brady is a chemistry guy. I believe that when you saw the other receivers, you're like, it's not like the receivers are so bad. It's the chemistry was way off. And I think that's why Gronk is so important. So I'm thinking, all right, year 3, Godwin and Brady, he should be, Tom Brady should be thrown to him with his eyes closed just because he knows where Godwin's going to be and Godwin knows where to go. But I think that's just the interesting thing is Tom Brady's not going to have time. He's not going to move. He's going to be quick to release the ball. And when you have chemistry, expect big numbers. When it's a new player plugged in, then they could be a great player, but it won't fit right.
And I just bought a rookie ticket auto of Chris Godwin for $30. So I know that his cards are undervalued right now. There's not a whole lot of them out there either. 2017 rookie. So just something else to throw out there.
Who do you guys have?
I thought Godwin was a good answer. I got 2. One of them isn't that underrated, but I feel like I still need to mention him. And I've talked about him before, and that's Deontay Johnson. Because as good as he is, he's not even remotely close to a household name yet. And his bust out, in my opinion, is only limited by the quarterback play. And that was, an aging Ben Roethlisberger last year. But what this guy's done on the field, especially in the last 2 years, is just a major, major leap. And if you look at some highlight reels, this guy is an insane route runner. He makes incredible catches. And then the other one's kind of like a little bit more of a sleeper, if you will. Look at Cordero Patterson, right? And I can speak from the heart on this one. He was on the Bears. You want to talk about a guy that was completely wasted. His talent was completely wasted in the 2 years we had him when they basically just utilized him as a kick returner. Clearly, at his age, still has plenty left in the tank. And, he's going to do quite a bit of things for Atlanta this year. I was actually hoping he was going to go to Tampa personally, but it is what it is. But those are my 2.
Yeah, so I was actually hoping, Brad, that you were going to say one of our latest acquisitions, but a wide receiver acquisition, Russell Gage from the Atlanta Falcons. This guy, it doesn't have a ton of draft pedigree, but come from LSU. But at the time that he was at LSU, there was a lot of other really big playmakers on his team, so he just did not get the opportunity share. But last year, whenever Calvin Ridley was forced to miss time due to mental reasons and they released Julio Jones, he was gone. They had Kyle Pitts, and it was pretty much Russell Gage. So, they were leaning on Russell Gage a lot, and outside of Cordero Patterson. But Russell Gage actually turned that into 770 yards, 64 receptions. He had a 88 percentile PFF grade, which is a descriptive grade on how well he was playing at his individual, position responsibilities. Russell Gage is actually a really good receiver in the intermediate and short sectors of the field, and is no secret that Tom Brady wanted Russell Gage on our team to be the early season void to fill in that Chris Godwin role. Russell Gage ran a lot of his snaps out of the slot, and that's also where Chris Godwin lines up a lot. And so I think we're going to see a big breakout from Russell Gage in our offense in September.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. He's 26 years old, still pretty young. Not super young, but not bad. Yeah, good stuff. See, and that's why I knew of the signing, and I know he had like a 100+ yard game against Tampa. But if I haven't seen him play with Tampa, then I'm not too familiar, and I'm not watching Falcons football for fun. I mean, that just sounds horrible.
Well, he's very bursty. You know, he's not a guy that's got a lot of top end speed, but he's a guy that works really well in the short and intermediate sectors of the field. He's versatile. He's very bursty, so he can explode, you know, and you can see him moving the chains a lot and have the occasional big play. Obviously, Brady's going to set him up good. He's got good hands. So this is a guy that's going to be very involved in the offense, especially Chris Godwin's out at the beginning of the year. I look for a big – and the other cool thing, Brad, I don't know if you noticed this, but he was drafted in the 6th round. Guys that were drafted 5th, 6th, 7th round, undrafted, Panini does not print very many of their cards. Some of those guys don't get printed at all. They go back and print them. Like, yeah, Tom Brady's only got 100 or 100 and so different rookie cards. You know, you look at Russell Gage, he's only got 100 and so rookie cards. And you know, so there's not a ton of different variety out there. The options are very limited, but he does have rookie ticket auto. And that's where I got one for $30, same price as Chris Godwin, but you know, it's a lot more scarce because it doesn't have the variety.
Nice.
He should be a good play. I think he'll be a good play. If you think that he did 800 yards with Matt Ryan basically having like no time to throw the ball, it could be pretty scary what he could do with the Bucs, honestly.
And actually, when you mentioned Bursty, Andy, I was like, Bursty is actually perfect for what Tom Brady needs. He needs someone that can get open within 2 seconds, not someone that takes 5 seconds but then is gone, because Tom's not going to hold the ball that long.
Exactly. He loves LSU guys for whatever reason, man. Lombardi, Lenny, Russell Gage. So and it's going to be exciting, man. I'm excited. I'm investing in Russell Gage this offseason because people aren't just jumping, right? They're not just jumping and giving him that recognition just because he's now associated with Tom Brady. You got to really dig into his game logs from last year and his film to see that he's actually really good. It's going to be exciting for us in September with him. He's definitely you know, a lot more experience in the NFL as well. So he's a much better route runner than a Tyler Johnson, who's also on our depth chart, or a Jalen Darden, who we just drafted last year. So he's definitely going to slot in as the number 2 wide receiver in a Tom Brady offense, who is very pass heavy.
Number 2 ahead of Mike Evans?
No, not ahead of Mike Evans. Mike Evans is going to be number 1.
Are you saying with Godwin out?
Yeah, with Godwin out, he'll be number 2.
Got it.
There's plenty to go around though, even when Godwin's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah, because we still haven't re-signed Gronk. Gronk is obviously, you know, he said it himself. Tom Brady gave me a little scare whenever he retired for a month. I'm going to give him a scare and not you know, sign an extension, right, or re-sign a new contract with the Bucs right away.
Gronk is probably calling Deshaun Watson asking for his agent's number. I need a 1-year deal. What can I get? Like $29 million? Can you just? How can you make this work? But cool, man.
All right. So, Brad, what is your favorite part of the hobby today, and what do you feel is most toxic?
Meeting people and talking about it. I think the cool thing is that whether you're investing or collecting $50,000 cards or $5 cards, the conversation and enjoyment is the same. I think just speculating on sports, talking about products, what's overrated, underrated. I mean, that type of conversation to me is the best, because it's just, you don't have to have a budget of a 7-figure budget or anything like that. So even from the beginning, I got in to connect to my inner child. And then when you started your station, Andy, it was like, dude, we were going for hours talking to each other, because it's exciting. You feel the enthusiasm in our voices talking about, well, what about this player? What about this card? What about and it's just like your inner kid comes to life. So anything that brings that inner kid to life, for sure is my favorite part. Toxic, I mean, I guess the more money that's in the hobby, the more scams, shill bidding, anything to get the money, the more theft we're seeing. But I guess it's dependent on everyone's experience. And I think the self-righteousness or the judgmental side or all of that, to me, it's in every single demographic or every single group or hobby or religion or nutritional plan. Whether when I was plant-based for a year and a half, you have the vegans that were self-righteous, and then you had the vegans that were cool, and then you had the CrossFitters that this is the ultimate thing, or the other people, the other CrossFitters that are like, yeah, this is good for us, but we get it if it's not for you. And so anything where there's a sense of entitlement or self-righteousness, I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that, certainly. And especially the scammers, anybody out there doing unethical stuff. But yeah. So this is going to parlay into my perfect question, because I do think that there may be some toxic people out there, like actively just creating very judgmental type of content instead of actually trying to provide value to the hobby. I want to ask you, how do you feel about the current state of content creators in the hobby?
I mean, I feel it's good. I wouldn't want to shut anyone down just because we live in a country of free speech. And I think that's one of the coolest things, where if you want to say, look, I'm also anti-cancel culture too. I'm more like, if people want to watch and absorb whatever, go for it. But I know the way I want to operate. But I also like the fact that, hey, this is a free country, and put out whatever you want. But hopefully the market and the audience decides what is funny, what is not funny, what is informative, what's not informative, what is inspiring, what's not inspiring, and goes from there. So yeah, I think it's a good space, but based on the Mint Collective and what I'm seeing, I think the content is only going to get more advanced, higher budget. We have Ken Golden's show coming out at the end of this year. We have documentaries, plural, coming out. We have more projects that are going to be 5-figure, 6-figure budgets. And so I think it's exciting if you're on the content side, and if you're not, but you're thinking about it, really think about it, because this is like shoestring budget time right now. But I believe in the next year, it's going to be a lot bigger, especially when you see Drake doing breaks with Ken Golden and just the things that can happen on a bigger scale. So there's plenty of room for you and your take and your personality. It's just a matter of if you want to do it or not.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I like the fact that there's, it's getting to the point where there's different sectors within the hobby, and there's something out there for everybody. Like there's people that have channels that they just go through like the most sold cards on eBay, or like the hottest selling cards, and that's what they focus on. So I think it's cool. Like, just as an example, there's more of those little niches that are being developed for cards, and it's fun. And I do
Absolutely.
enjoy talking about like the aspect of just talking about different cards. But it's an endless conversation, because there's so many different cards and possibilities and end results you can get to.
That's it. Yeah. It's fun, man.
And most of the people in the hobby have this sense of intelligence to them. Most of the people in the hobby are more intelligent, I think, because they have appreciation for the details, like the fine details in stuff. And they have this creative side to them. They have this appreciation for aesthetically crafted cards and all the details and assets that go into the cards and stuff. So I find that you have some good conversations with people.
Absolutely, man. And the conversations are going in a lot of different directions, lots of business, lots of ideas, lots of collaborations. The conversations are getting way more exciting now than 2 years ago when we got started. But I do have to hop off in 2 minutes. My lady friend will be knocking on the door soon and interrupting me. But, I'm still trying to get her into cards. But, that's an uphill
One
climb.
thing at a time.
Yeah.
One thing at a time.
I want to add to that just a hair. I mentioned this, like, I think maybe in our first episode, Andy, that I was on with you. And football collecting, card collecting, is actually, of the card segments, of the major card segments, actually the smallest, right? Baseball, basketball are pretty close at the top. Football, and then hockey and like F1 and some of these other things, wrestling, are starting to grow or whatever. But of the major three, football is actually third. And as the platform, as the collecting platform as a whole grows, that's going to mean more investors, right? More collectors, but the same amount of cards exist. So the actual value per card as a whole for the hobby will hypothetically grow, right? Because you're going to have this greater demand, but the same amount of product available.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This has been fantastic, Brad, Steve. Thank you so much, guys. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Be sure to check out the Comeback Card Investors YouTube channel if you have not already. And we will see you guys again next week.
Shout out to Fast Eddie P for the super chat, by the way.
I missed a super chat for Fast Eddie P. Dude, Fast Eddie P, you are the man. Appreciate you, bro.
Gentlemen.
There you go. Thanks,
Pleasure.
guys.